Hello everyone and welcome back to Car Mechanics Simulator. As you recall, we sold our last car. This is the new one we're going to be working on. This is going to be an amazing vehicle when we get it done. I can't wait to start on this thing. But first, we got to do a customer car. This is another one of the Chieftain TBXs, and this gentleman is having problems with his suspension. He said the car is not steering correctly, and it is rattling a lot. So we have to check this thing out and see what's wrong with it. So we'll look in the overview mode first, see if we see any obvious things. We can see steering rack right there is red, so that means that's bad. Sway bar front end link B is bad. We can see that is red. Now we already knew that from looking at the status thing. And that's the other side of the steering rack there. So that's all that we can find out from the overview mode. So we're going to have to run some more tests. So let's go through and look real quick, make sure that nothing else was discovered. Okay, just the two that we already knew about. Alright, so let's lift this thing up a little bit. And I'll show you in the menu how do you get to all the different testing. Now, all of the different kinds of tests you can run on the vehicle aren't going to be very useful for this particular problem. We're probably not going to learn anything. But first, let's go in examine mode. This is just like the overview mode, but you can do it from underneath the car, where you can look at all the different parts and see what's wrong with it. But if we go over to examine tools, bring up that menu, these are all the different kinds of tests that I can run right now. We have the electric meter. We have the compression tester. We have the OBO scanner, and we have the fuel pressure test. I think that said OBO scanner. It's hard to read, it's so small. So we're going to run these tests, and you'll see what it looks like. Once the test has been run, a menu will pop up right here, and these are the parts that it checked, and it gives us the condition of those parts. So nothing in that one was for the suspension. So we'll go to the compression tester. I can already tell you that probably none of the suspension parts are going to be on any of these tests. Yeah, this is all for the engine, compression in the engine of the pistons and everything. Alright, we will do this one. Does not have the ports, so we can't do that. And the last one will be the fuel pressure test, which once again won't have anything to do with the suspension. But the reason I'm doing this is because I just want to show you all the different kind of testing. So if you had something that was having a fuel issue, you would run this test. If you had something where the engine wasn't running correctly, you'd run the compression test. So this is just to show, didn't learn anything new from those tests. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to actually take this thing apart. Now I can put it on another thing where it'll actually run the car and the wheels will move and everything, and that'll test a few parts, but it's much easier just to get to it. Now most times you can see how that's all rusty, the brake disc is. Most likely that's going to be a problem. Same with the inner and the outer tie rods here. They're both very rusty as well. That's probably going to be a problem. That's a little giveaway when you're dealing with the game. But basically, if you take apart the car in the section that you're working on, like for example, this is the suspension. So if you take the suspension apart, then once you've taken it off the car, you will know the condition of it. So just the simple act of taking it apart will teach us everything we need to know about what parts we need to replace. So this is the outer tie rod, and the inner tie rod is right next to it. We got the sway bar front end link B. We know we got to take that off. And I'm already telling you that the inner tie rod's bad. I can look at it and tell. Okay, so that's that side. We go ahead and take these off if we want, but we don't really have to, because I can already look at them and tell that they're not bad. So then we'll go over to the other side, and we have to take the other side pretty much most of the way apart as well, so we can get that steering rack out of there. So we just start with the caliper, we take that off, then we take off the pad, and then the brake disc, and then the wheel hub cap, and then the bearing. We got to take all this stuff out. Go ahead and pop that shock off. Okay, get that bearing out of there. Get the wheel hub out. Now all these parts that I'm taking apart right now are good. There's nothing wrong with them. But I have to take it all apart to get to the steering rack. You can tell they're good because of the condition. They're not all rusted out. See, that's the part I want, the steering rack, but I have to go through all of this other stuff to get to it. So I take the inner tie rod off. Now I can get to the steering rack. Now I don't need to take apart the rest of that because it looks good. So here we can see already a lot of this stuff is discovered. There's some parts that are not discovered yet still. Those are going to be on the rear suspension because I can look at the other parts on the front suspension and see that they're good. So we're going to have to take this rear suspension apart to find those other parts. So there's one of them already, the shock. And I would guess that the leaf spring plate and the leaf spring U-bolts are also going to be bad. So that would be the 4 parts that we're missing. So the other side should be absolutely fine. So we're going to go ahead and fix everything that is bad. We don't have to fix all of these parts because if it's not in the red, it's fine. But I'm going to do it anyway. Just to be a nice guy and give him the car way better than he brought it in. So now we just put all this back together. And as we put the new parts on the car that are good, there will be a green check mark that appears beside, we got to buy a new steering rack. Steering rack you can't really fix. I don't know why, it just never gives me the option to fix it. So we always have to go in and buy a new one of those. Okay, so we got that. We're going to pop that on. This game is great for people that love cars. And you can see there, steering rack. See the green check mark instead of the red X? That means that part has been repaired. So you just got to do that with every part on that list that's average red, and you're done. Put everything back together, and the customer will be happy. But this is a great game for guys that love cars and love working on cars and love everything about it. But they either don't want to go out and actually do it themselves because they don't want to get like all filthy dirty and crawl up underneath everything. Maybe you just can't anymore. Maybe you're a little bit older and you just can't do it anymore. Or maybe money's an issue and you just can't afford to do this kind of stuff at home. It kind of scratches that itch, and it's a lot of fun. It's also great for people that know absolutely nothing about cars and want to learn. Because you can learn a great deal about fixing cars by playing this game. And anytime you can have fun playing a game and also learn something is a bonus. So we're just putting all this back together, not pulling it apart. We just put in the inner tie rod and the outer tie rod. We're going to throw the shock back on because it's good. It's not great. It's only 79%, but it's not going to qualify as bad. I might go ahead and just buy him a new one. I'm feeling generous today. I made all that money off the last car. Maybe I just buy him a new shock to put on that side. What do you think? Buy 2 of them. We'll replace both of his front shocks. Just to be nice. Don't need to, because they were in the yellow, not in the red. But I'm going to anyway. Merry Christmas, fella. I'm in a good mood because I just had that amazing purple car finished. I got another awesome car to work on. So he caught me happy. So he's going to make out like a bandit today and get some free parts. Now, I'm cutting into my profit a little bit on this, but the reason that I'm fixing this car is not to make money. It's just to show you the customer repair portion of this game. And each thing I do, I get a little bit of experience for, so it's not like I'm not benefiting from doing it. So we'll throw this new shock on. Okay. Trying to decide if that bottom suspension arm is good enough or not. Eh, to hell with it. We'll see what happens. I think it'll be fine. So we'll throw the wheel hub back in, we'll put everything back together, put the bearing back in, the cap, put the rotor back on, the caliper back on, the brake pads back on, you know the drill. I'm going to need to buy one of these for the other side, definitely. Because they are not very good. Alright, why was I in brakes? I need to be in suspension. Okay, go down. Wheel hub bearing, buy 2 of those. Go ahead and buy 2 caps while I'm at it. What the hell? I don't want to put a brand new bearing in and to put a junky old cap on it. So we'll get that situated. This is a difficult part to put in sometimes because you got to get it on the section correctly, the right angle, because it's a very tiny little slice that you can touch to make it green where you need it green. There we go. So we'll pop those 2 in, we'll put the cap back in. Yeah, the caps were okay, but they weren't great, so that'll work. We're going to throw this whole rusty rotor back on because it's good enough. Tired of buying new parts. Put the caliper back on, and the caliper cylinders are good. We'll throw those on. Pop the wheel back on, and that should be this side of the suspension done. Make sure. Looks good to me. I don't see anything that I'm missing. So I'll throw this wheel back on. It's a big difference between the cars I'm building to sell and the cars I'm just fixing. Because on the cars I'm just fixing, I don't care if the parts are not the greatest, because all you have to do is fix the stuff that's in the red. Alright, bottom suspension arm, we're going to throw that on with the bushings. I got hells of bushings. I bought a ton of those. Throw the new shock on we built for the guy. Alrighty. Now we got the sway bar front end link B, if I can get it to... There we go. Okay, that's bad. We got to replace that. Go and buy one of those. The one for the other side was okay, but this one wasn't. So we will replace that with a new part. Get that put in. Now we got to roll with the inner tie rod and outer tie rod. Put those together. Okay. That looks good. Now we got to do the front axle knuckle cover. Get that on. Throw the front wheel hub in. Now comes the bearing, which is a pain in the butt, which I got first try. That was cool. Pop the cap on there. It's rotor time, or brake disc ventilated as they call it. Put the pads on. Put the caliper on. Now, if I was actually fixing this car, I would definitely recommend that they put new rotors on this. Because even though technically it's still okay, it doesn't have too much longer before it's not going to be okay. And the problem is, if you let them get too rusty like that, sometimes they'll lodge in there, and it's a bitch to get them off. I had one time that I was trying to take off. We literally had to take a digging bar. I don't know if you guys know what that is. If you ever done any farming, it's a giant iron bar, super heavy. And we had to put that on it and hit it over and over and over again with a giant 16-pound sledge to finally break it loose. Damn near broke the guy's leg who was helping me. It was a crazy time. Of course, we weren't in a shop with tools. We were a couple rednecks out on the farm trying to knock the rotor off to put a new one on. So now we're going to check this other side. This other side should be fine, because the 4 parts are on the other side, I think. I haven't checked them, but that's what they looked like, that they were bad. So we're just going to take a little quick look here and see with this side if I'm correct. Yeah, everything looks good. Everything on this side is fine and dandy. No problems. Which means that the 4 parts that we need to replace these 4 are going to be on the other side. So let's put this back together real quick. And we'll move back around to the other side and get this job finished up. And get this car the hell out of our garage so that we can start working on our new project car. Which I'm excited to start. The first job for the project car is going to be rebuilding that engine. And I don't think there's much of an engine in it. There might be the actual block, but I think that might be all that's there, to be honest with you. I haven't looked real close yet, but I saw in the junkyard when we were picking it out that it looked pretty empty in the engine compartment. So I think we might have a block and that's it. And if that's the case, yeah, that shock absorber is toast. We got to get rid of that. If that's the case, then we definitely need to do a lot of work on it. Alright, let's buy this shock absorber and replace it. Let's see, it was rear shock absorber B, right? I'm going to say yes and guess and go for it. I think that's what it was. I didn't really pay close attention. That's not always the best thing when you're trying to work on a car. You should really pay attention to the parts you take off and make sure you're putting the right parts back on. If you want the car to function properly and keep you safe. Alright. So we need to buy a new leaf spring plate and 2 leaf spring U-bolts. Yep. And the shock absorber. Those were the parts. I was right. Okay. So we got to go back to the shop because I don't know if we can fix any of that. Yeah, we can't fix the stuff we need to buy. So we'll go back to the shop. We'll buy a new leaf spring plate and 2 leaf spring U-bolts. And then we'll put all this back together and that will be job done. So we need 2 of these and 1 of the plates. Boom. Done. Now we just got to slap it all back together with some super glue and some duct tape and send this gentleman on his merry way. Of course, first we're going to collect a sizable fee for our expertise. I won't charge him for the free stuff I put on his car. We'll just say he won a contest or something, and he got free stuff. Wouldn't it be something if he got pissed off because I replaced some of his parts that he didn't want replaced? Even though they're new parts and it's going to be way better, if it like pissed him off and he demanded a refund or something? That'd be terrible. And I guess you wouldn't do that in a real shop. You wouldn't have a customer come in and you say, oh, I replaced half your suspension even though it didn't need it. Just because they were a little dirty. They'd probably be pretty furious. Of course, if you didn't charge them for it, they might not be so mad, but who knows. Alright, that looks like job done. Let's check and make sure that everything is done. We are good. As long as I put everything back on the car I was supposed to, that should be job done. So we're going to make $2,823. Front wheels have different size. What, I put the tires back on wrong? I might have. The rear tires are probably bigger than the front, and I did not look at the sizes. I just slapped them back on because I just figured they'd be the same. But apparently they're not, so we got to take all these tires off. And we have to be more careful when we put the tires back on and make sure that the big ones go in the front, go in the back, not the front, and the smaller ones go in the front. Because you wouldn't want to do it the opposite way, because it probably wouldn't drive too good. I don't know exactly what it would do. I don't think it would hurt nothing as long as it could fit underneath there, but it would kind of be silly. Alright, let's see which ones we're gonna use here. 275/60 R16, 255/60 R16. Okay, so the 55s are going to go on the front, and the 60s are going to go on the back. So let's get that right. Hell, they look almost the same. Can't really tell a big difference in them by looking at them. Alright, one more tire and we will be done, unless I forgot something else. I don't think I did, though. I think everything's done now after I put this tire on. And there we go. Now, are you happy? $2,823, please. Thank you. Get the hell out of my shop. Alright. We have got a ton of stuff in our inventory. Look at all this. It is insane. So a lot of these parts are bad. Stuff that I've taken off cars. So we kind of got to sell them all. You can sell this way by selling each individual one. Or you can do it this way where you sell everything below a certain percentage. So I'm going to take it all the way up to like, I don't know, 76%. And sell everything that's below that. Now the shocks don't count in that, and neither do the tire kits. You have to sell those individually. But now everything that we have is going to be good. That we can actually use on cars. So that's good. Let's go ahead and put that on the map, get that out of our inventory. Alright. So this is the warehouse. We are going to store all of this stuff that's in our inventory right now. You have access to a bunch of different warehouses. So you can store a ton. Look at this. 8 different warehouses. And each one can hold a buttload of stuff. So what we're going to do is we're just going to store everything in our warehouse. And then we will come and pick up what we need for each individual job. I've already got a bunch of stuff in the warehouse, but we're going to store all this too. And then when I'm working on this car here, when it's engine time, I'll come and pull all the engine parts I need out of my warehouse so I don't have to buy as many. And we'll do it that way. Okay, so now our inventory is empty, our warehouse is full, and it's time to start on the other car, but I think I'm going to do that in the next video because, like I said, it's going to be the engine. And I don't really want to try to do the rebuild on the engine right now because we're already over 20 minutes, and that's going to take at least half an hour or more. So I'll probably do that in the next episode of this. That's the end of this episode. If you liked the video, please hit like and subscribe. And until I speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do I. Bye-bye.